Welcome to Two Guys on the Porch. I'm Jason. This is Bradford. As always, we have my friendly hunting dog, Kimber, with us. And today, Bradford, we have a distinguished guest. You know, we've often touted, and it's been obvious, that we are not experts. Today, we have
We've proven that.
We have a distinguished guest, Jason Ridgel from Guidance Whiskey. Jason knows his stuff. He actually has his own bourbon. And so we have him today, our very honored guest, a much more distinguished guest than Chris Nishan before. Chris, we love you. You're my buddy. But
I wouldn't have insulted Chris like that. Sorry, Chris. He didn't mean it.
Well, Chris knows. The truth hurts. So, well, welcome, Jason.
Hello. I've never been called distinguished twice in an introduction.
Stick around. We'll kiss your ass all day, man.
Is it because I got more whiskey?
That's true. You brought the whiskey.
I brought the whiskey.
Yeah, what's the old saying? Don't buy a boat, get a friend with a boat. Even more so with bourbon. Don't buy a bourbon, just get a friend who has his own bourbon, his own distillery.
So it wasn't intentional doing that with you, Jason, but it worked out for me.
Yeah, there you go. It's it's good to have friends.
Yeah. So Jason, thanks for joining us today,
it's an honor to be here.
Just a reminder, you're the proprietor, founder, and ambassador of Guidance Whiskey. Not bourbon, whiskey.
Bourbon, whiskey.
All right.
There we go. And I am the ambassador, the accountant, the truck unloader, the marketer, all of those things.
Yeah, and I really do want to spend some time today just getting to know you. And I think our audience would really appreciate that experience too. Yeah. And I think the longer we talk, really want to understand what drove you to get into whiskey, where the name came from, how did you do what you did? But really, I think before that, it's just getting to know you a little bit. And before we jump into that, as a reminder, we're excited about this episode as we are all of them. But we want to remind you, if you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, and comment, and all of the other platforms, rate and review. And I think rate is not like hot or not. I think that's, you wouldn't.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. I don't want to know that truth. No, rate is just say, hey, I like the episode.
Yes, we need 5-star ratings and reviews. And then please give us comments on YouTube. We really enjoy doing this. And, as we talked before we started filming, really the whole point of this is to build relationship, friendship, and to hopefully do that in a non-face-to-face way with people, and men in particular, watching us and listening. And Jason, one thing you had said before, I'd heard you talking on a podcast, that if you've not trademarked it, I'd like to steal it, because you were describing your whiskey, and you said it's the flavor of friendship.
Yeah.
It's the flavor of stories and history being made. Man, I loved that.
Yeah.
Was that original to you, or did you steal that from somebody else?
No, that's what it became, because when you start something, there's an idea that you have when you start a project, probably like you guys with the podcast, but then there's what it becomes, where there's what God meant it to be. And the further you go every day, you get revealed more of what the purpose of what you're doing is. And over the years, that's what I have noticed with our product, with our whiskey, is that stories come out. Friendships are made. Camaraderie is everywhere. It brings people in. And so that's where that quote came from.
So, which I love, because I hope that's what we're doing today, right? I do want to get to just the meat of it. Where can people find your whiskey? Where can people find Guidance?
They can find Guidance if you're in Nashville. Some of our favorite stores are Frugal McDougal, Total Wine. But because we're small, what I ask people to do is, wherever you get your favorite brand of bourbon or whiskey is, ask them to bring it in. Tell them that, hey, we want to try this Guidance whiskey, and have them bring it in. And that's how our business grows. You can also order online in 46 states, which is which is easy,
Yeah.
at guidancewhiskey.com.
That makes it convenient.
makes it convenient.
Guidancewhiskey.com. Are there any other states that we can walk into a store and buy it?
Yep. Virginia, right now, you can walk in the store in Illinois and in Southern California.
Oh, in Southern Cal. Well, you've
Yeah.
got some history there. We'll get into that.
Just a little bit.
How about in Memphis? Can we get it in Memphis?
You can get it in Memphis.
At Buster's?
You're welcome, Busters.
I know. I don't know why I'm giving them a shout out. They didn't give us anything.
No,
But it's
no.
a great liquor store.
It is. And
Yeah.
they have everything.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah, I got my bottle at Total Wine.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had a chance to taste it. And we don't want to get into the tasting notes this early, but it's good whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you hit on the note. I'm gonna reach over and grab it. The note is it's kind of a relaxing drink. You really do just want to sit back, hang out, chill, and catch up, talk.
Yeah. It's your daily drinker. There had to be a market for people that wanted something that wasn't super high proof, wasn't super big age, that they can drink every single day. The same way you walk in the house, if you're in the country where I grew up, you want some sweet tea, right? You come in the house, get you some sweet tea, watch TV, talk. That's what I want our whiskey to be like for people.
Yeah, and you're saying I'm picturing sweet tea where they boil it on the stove.
Oh, yeah.
Super
And
saturated.
it's hot, and then the sugar goes in.
Yeah,
Oh,
super
yeah.
saturated.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not fake sweet tea, the real thing.
So you grew up in Alabama?
I sure did. Small town called Auburn, Alabama.
Auburn, Alabama.
War Eagle, Jason. War Eagle.
Roll Tide.
We
good
are
sir.
in Tennessee.
Roll Tide. And I guess we can get that straight. I grew up in Auburn, but I am an Alabama fan. My mom went to Alabama. 2 cousins went to Alabama. So it was crazy growing up in Auburn, being an Alabama fan.
That's kind of like a boy named Sue, right? Johnny Cash song. That kind of
Yes.
made you tough right there.
You had to be tough. Because we took a lot of losses. But in the end,
And then Saban came along, the greatest coach of all time, and ruined it.
thank you.
Yeah. But you didn't finish high school there. You said you went to.
Yeah, we moved to Birmingham.
Okay.
Moved to Birmingham for high school, Huffman High School, go Vikings, and then ended up coming up to Tennessee State.
Yeah. So tell me how that decision came about.
Tennessee State decision. So I thought I always wanted to be an engineer. So when I was in high school, there's a company called SIPCO
Yeah.
that they had an engineering program for kids that you could go once a week after school. And
American Cast Iron and Pipe Company.
right there in Birmingham,
Yeah.
SIPCO. Yeah.
SIPCO. And there I met a guy whose family, I think he was like 3rd generation Tennessee State. And our parents figured out that we lived 5 blocks from each other. So they were like, hey, your parents are going to take us sometime, and my mom would take us sometime. And I really didn't like the guy. He was obnoxious. He was skinny. I didn't really care for him.
Did he just say he didn't like skinny people?
I did not like skinny people back in the day.
Dude, you better beef up.
Yeah.
You better beef up.
I appreciate, again, did I say I appreciate you coming on
I'm
us
telling you,
despite me?
serious.
I feel safe.
But it was skinny and obnoxious, right? Now the story. Now he ended up becoming my best friend. So, and there was a summer program at Tennessee State called Minority Introduction to Engineering, the MITE program. And he told me about it because we were in the SIPCO program. He said he's going up to Tennessee State for the summer. We were 15, 16 years old. I had never heard of Tennessee State. We came to that program, and it was my first time away from Alabama at a university campus
Wow.
at 15 years old. You can imagine.
Yeah. Left an impression, did it?
It left a huge impression. And later on, we came back to another program, and I was offered a scholarship 2 years later
So there
accepted
wasn't
it.
some conscious decision in high school to say, I'm going to go to an HBCU. It was a Tennessee State direct
Tennessee
connection.
State, that's why I love my school, because it wasn't about it being an HBCU. It was more like it was more TS me than TSU, and I felt that when I came.
You're like a walking commercial. 'Cause I'm like,
Yeah,
dude, that's good.
you
Yeah.
like that? Are y'all writing these down?
They need to pay you for that one.
That's right.
But that's how I ended up here, and I like the fact that I ended up here that way because of friendship, because somebody showed me something that I didn't know, and it ended up being a big part of my life.
So if you look back, your closest friends today, are they ones that you went to high school with, college, or post-college?
Well, both. Like, cause a lot of guys from my high school that were my closest friends, we ended up going to college together. But then we made even more friends while we were in college. But my college, that high school, it's like 7 guys that are
Okay.
my closest, and they're spread out kind of everywhere. But those are my buddies.
How do y'all keep up if y'all are spread out? Do y'all get together for anything on an annual basis, something like that? Or how do y'all keep up?
Drink bourbon on a porch, maybe.
Yeah, whenever we see homecoming is one of the biggest times
Oh yeah.
when everybody comes back for homecoming.
TSU homecoming is huge.
It's epic.
Yeah.
If you never experienced it, you need to experience it.
Yeah.
Like, it is one of the best, because it feels like that. You're watching, if you like family, if you like a big family reunion and that you get to be a part of, that's a TSU homecoming.
Yeah.
Well, and you know of what you speak, Jason Hubbard, because I don't know if you still are, but you were for quite a period of time the team doctor.
Yeah, I still am. Yeah, I'm
Still are,
yeah, I'm one of the team doctors for TSU, and yeah, it's overwhelming. You go to the game. I mean, there's the game, but the football game is almost a small portion of the event. It's something to behold. I
Tailgate.
know people who here in Nashville who go to the homecoming event, but
Tailgate.
tailgate.
The
Don't
tailgate.
go to the game at all.
They never see the
It's a
inside of
party
it.
that a football game happens to be at. But yeah, I'll even go so far to say in Nashville, where a city full of events, it's the most underrated Nashville event there is. It's huge.
Well, and TSU, fairly large school. Eddie George is their football coach. That's brought them some notoriety
Yep.
recently. They have a couple of Hall of Famers from past rosters. Richard Dent, who was a defensive star for the Chicago Bears back in the day. Claude Humphrey. Ed Too-Tall Jones went to school there. But do you know, I was telling you earlier this, Jason, because we got 2 Jasons and people are listening aren't not going to be able to see that. We were talking about this earlier, Jason Hubbard. But the trivial sports fact that I love is, do you know who won the 1960 Olympic gold medal in the women's 4x100 relay?
Wilma Rudolph.
What's that?
Wilma Rudolph.
Yeah.
Well, she was the anchor of the relay team.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who the other 3 people were?
No.
Her college teammates. It's the only time in Olympic history that 4 people from the same school on the
Really?
same college team competed for their country and brought home the gold medal. And the coach was Ed Temple, legendary coach,
Legendary coach.
who was their college coach as well.
Cheers to that.
No kidding.
That is,
Yeah. Cheers.
wow.
And Wilma, Tennessee girl.
Anna Wilma. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and she won 3 gold medals that 60 Olympics, and first time a woman had ever done that. And then her teammate, who was in 1960, won the gold medal in the 100, which Wilma had won in 60.
Mm-hmm.
She won it in 64 and 68. And then Ralph Boston was on that team. He won a gold medal in the long jump in 60, followed up with a silver in 64 and a bronze in 68. So he got them all over 3 Olympics.
He ran it down. I'm going to use that at trivia. You know that. So
I love that one.
We going back and forth today. You giving me, I'm giving you.
That's what it's all about. Fellowship on the porch.
Yeah.
Fellowship, the flavor of fellowship. I think we're going to definitely
This is a marketing
plagiarize
podcast
that
right now.
So speaking of which, the flavor of what we're smoking today, and Jason Ridgel, you brought these.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
As we were opening the episode, we were joking. This is a full-bodied stick.
Full body.
Yeah.
What do we say?
It's a stick. It's a
Yeah.
fellowship
It's called the
stick.
Patriarch
And we said-
Cigar.
yeah.
But we named it Who's Your Daddy
This
Cigar.
is a Who's Your Daddy cigar.
Because they're not playing.
They're not playing.
Yeah.
Maurice and the guys at Patriarch, we were honored to host them last week at the Standard. They were in town for a show. I think they were doing something with Uncle Nearest, and we got a chance to meet
Yeah.
with them. And great guys based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and I think they're doing an amazing thing, especially with these sticks. So,
All right. So you mentioned Uncle Nearest,
Yes.
which we would love to film there.
Yeah.
yeah.
But does that suck all the air out of the room that they are such a high-profile, minority-owned whiskey? Or does that help you being a fellow minority-owned whiskey?
I'm glad you asked that. It adds air, and it'll always.
So it helps you.
it helps everybody.
Yeah.
And rising tide raises all ships, and
Okay.
Exactly what I was thinking.
especially in this industry, right? Because when they start looking for one, you find more. And a lot of people, I get asked that question a lot, but I actually have I have bottles of Uncle Nearest signed by Victoria at my house.
Now,
right?
is she the owner or is she the master?
She's
mixer?
she's the master distiller.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she is related
Yes.
to Nearest Green.
She's a descendant. Yeah. So she's got the hot hand. She's the one that's creating these flavors and stuff that we get a chance to try. And we need that because we have to encourage more people to do this. And if you make it elitist or you keep shutting people out or telling them that if they don't do it this way, it's not right or any of those things, then you limit the creativity of what we get a chance to experience as customers and as bourbon and whiskey lovers.
So you're a creative guy. I mean,
Oh,
you
yeah.
couldn't have done this without that.
No.
So you get out of school from TSU, and then did you go to California from there? Because I know you spent some time out there. How did
Yeah.
you get there?
So out of school, I stayed around here. I was a substitute teacher. When I graduated, I went to work for KPMG. That was my first job out of school.
Okay.
And I
That
worked
sounds
there.
very corporate and buttoned up.
It really was. But I was really a big, I think, I can't remember what my card said that I did, but it was a really nice project manager something. But I was really like schlepping files up and down. Then we cut down to P2, which is the parking lot where they used to keep all of their files and stuff. I used to have to go through all of those and bring them up and down. But it was a former TSU grad, Miss Julia, who had worked for KPMG for, I think at the time, 20 years, who got me the internship there and then got me the job there after I graduated. And I was there during the time when Bearing Point and when consulting and accounting were still legally together. So it was some of the craziest times that I've ever seen.
Yeah, because Enron kind of broke that up, right?
Enron took it all down. But before, those were the golden days, and I learned a lot. And one of the things I learned two things from that job. I learned that I didn't really like corporate, but I also learned that one day when I'm rich, I learned the type of millionaire that I want to be. And it was one of the managing partners, this guy named Jamie. I'll never forget. Jamie I forgot where he's from. He talked with a Southern accent, but Jamie, I think he was making about $2 to $4 million a year. Okay. He drove an old Lexus. Jamie spoke to every single person in the building when he walked in. I noticed that. I don't care if you were doing security, if you were cleaning, whatever. Jamie's talking to everybody, making friends, asking them about their kids. And then I noticed the guys that were under him that had the brand new cars, the $3,000 suits that were being mean to everybody and didn't make a fraction of what he made. So at that job, I learned that you don't have to be an a-hole that has nothing to do with success. We all choose the way that we want to treat people.
Did you have a chance to tell Jamie that?
I did. I did, you know, when I told him it was a Christmas party, when his wife said, "Hey, where do you get your suits?" And I was like, "Men's Warehouse." And she said, "That's where I get Jamie's suit." I was like, "What? You what?" I walked up to her, I said, "Man, you my hero, brother." Like, and that I've always been drawn to people like that, and I've wanted to live my life like that.
That's cool. That's a
Yeah.
great role model.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you had a chance to tell him that. So you worked there for how long?
I was there 2.5 years, close to 3. There was a big project that we completed, and I was looking at moving to Atlanta, to the bigger corporate office in
Right.
Atlanta, and I really got passed over for the job after I did a lot of the work. And I knew I wasn't gelling with corporate. I didn't like cubicles and office. I remember being in that office. It's beautiful. The Hermitage Hotel is right across the
Oh
street.
yeah.
Yeah.
You look out, and I would look out the window, and I would see the people like walking and hustling and bustling, and I wanted to be them. I didn't like being inside.
You felt cooped up.
I felt super cooped up. I was never meant to be leaning over a laptop for my whole life, and I was knowing that. So when that happened, it was kind of like that nudge to say, "Hey, go do something else."
Yeah.
Which was?
From there, substitute teaching,
What did you teach? Just anything?
anything. But I love doing special education,
Really?
which was yeah.
Hmm.
I love special education, and that was fun. Being with the kids, I loved that. From there, I became a probation officer.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know that.
That's different.
23 years old. I was one of the
Wow.
youngest probation officers in the state of Tennessee.
Wow.
And on my very first day, day of training, the lady who I had that was training me, we left the office. We went and did a couple visits. We went and got something to eat. We came back to the office, and she quit.
She quit?
She quit. I inherited 151 people
Tag,
on
you're
a
it.
caseload on my second day
Oh my
of
gosh.
being a probation officer. 70% of my caseload was 10 to 15 years older than me.
Wow.
All
That's
right?
that's what's called throwing you in the deep end to teach you how to
That is
swim.
the deep end.
Yeah.
But the story you want to tell about California and how all that stuff ended up in moving around in entrepreneurship, it kind of starts for me there. Because while I was a probation officer, we had to check people's check stubs to make sure they had jobs and stuff like that. And one time a lady came in and I saw her check stub. It was like $10,000 for the month. And I'm like, "What do you do?" And she said, "Oh, I have a cleaning company." I was like, "A cleaning company? Like, what are you cleaning?" She's like, "I have a Jana King franchise." I'm like, "Jana King? Like Jani?" She's like, "King." She's like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right." So she ended up leaving. And of course, I'm like, "What is Jana King?" And I looked it up, and well, we know it now to be one of the biggest cleaning services
Yeah.
around. But back then, they had a way for you to franchise really cheaply.
Huh.
I was like, huh. So I called them up. I went to a meeting, and I was like, man, I think it was a low barrier of entry. You could get in for like a couple grand, but I was still working probation. Now, simultaneously, what was happening was a lot of my probationers were looking for work. And there was a sheet in the office that if someone came in, they didn't have a job, I could tell them, "Hey, call these people. They'll hire you,
Yeah.
with a felony," or so on and so forth. A lot of my probationers were saying, "Hey, we're calling these people and it's not working. It's not working out." And I'm like, "Are you really trying?" And they're like, "We really are." So one day I sat in my office and I just started calling those numbers. And I started acting like I just got out of jail and I needed work. And they weren't lying. A lot of the numbers were disconnected. Some people were like, "We'll pay you $5 an hour." One guy told me, "Look, we'll pay you $10 an hour, but you got to give me 2 back for getting you the job."
Oh.
This is real. And I was blown away. I was like, "What?" So I was presented with an opportunity to start my own cleaning service. But what I did is I ended up hiring my probationers to work for me, which is completely conflict of interest now.
Yeah.
But I think the statues.
Yeah,
are
you're
done.
okay
we're
now.
good now.
The statues are done.
We'll keep it just between us friends.
Just between us friends.
Yeah.
But I had a friend of mine who we went in on the business, so I would have all my probationers call her. If they needed a job, I'd be like, hey, you know what, Jason, you're doing really good. You need some work. Call this girl. She has a company. She'll give you some work. And so I think 20% of my probationers were actually working for me at the time. And we became the number 3 largest cleaning business in the county in like a year.
Man,
Wow.
that is great.
That's awesome.
So that was entrepreneurship for me. That was my first thing of like, okay, I don't have to, the desk thing is not going to be for me. But also I learned about managing people, and that presented a whole nother,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother hurdle. So I'm learning all this at 23, 24 years old. So friendship, camaraderie, helping people, these are the things that became the ingredients of the businesses that I would do later. But I learned it there.
Yeah, so there's an element, it sounds like, of what you're doing that is not just about you.
Correct.
Yeah.
A lot of it is not just about me.
Well, that goes back to the comment we made at the beginning, talking about your whiskey. It's the flavor of friendship. It's not just about you.
Yeah. And you can drink it by yourself, but I bet it tastes better with friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right?
Speaking of which, I feel like I do most of the talking, but
No,
obviously not, because most of my whiskey's gone.
well, I'm really enjoying the story here. I'm
Me too.
intrigued. It's really neat how we've talked about this before on the porch. How God's calling for our lives it takes a different path, but often involves more people, and that's why here is that one you were called to do this. But it really works more to helping others and influences others. So that's really neat to hear. Well, the neat thing about
Do you need some more while I've got the bottle?
oh
open?
sure, please share.
How about you, Jason?
I would love some more.
There we go.
This is some great whiskey. I don't know who makes it, but it is
Thank you for
fantastic.
sharing.
This is all right stuff.
Well, I have so many whiskey questions, but I want to wait to ask those.
Yeah, so I guess
I want to get you to California and back.
That's what I'm
real curious about.
So this is the problem with the podcast. We're time limited, but the good news is Jason's not going anywhere. He's going to stay on the porch with us.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to continue to talk. The bad news is you're going to have to come back next week and see how he goes from California back to Tennessee and make some great bourbon. So while you're waiting, go on there, subscribe, like, and comment. Be sure to comment. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you don't like. We want to continue to be on the porch with our friends. So like, comment, and comment because this is how we continue to do this.
Well, we just poured more, so we can't be done.
No, we're not done. We're going to keep on talking and keep on recording, but you just have to come back next week to hear the conclusion and our comments about this excellent bourbon.
Thank you for joining us, Two Guys on a Porch, and today with friends. Life is much better with friends, a drink and cigar, and some Two Guys on a Porch swag.
Let us know what your drink and cigar of choice is at twoguysonaporch.com, and you'll be entered into a drawing to get some Two Guys on a Porch swag